Hi everyone, my name is Heidi Barber. I am the Peat Farm Manager. And today what we're going to do is we're going to be going through and dividing out a quarter or a half acre pasture into 4 runs of approximately 30 by 100 foot. And this will be centered on that half acre, and we'll be using more permanent fencing for this piece for the actual pins, and then going around the perimeter of that, still within the half acre, we will be able to use panels to make smaller temporary pastures for rotating our sheep through for rotational grazing. So before we go out and start driving posts and actually trying to install our fence, we're going to go through and talk a little bit about fencing type materials that you have for fence wire and some of the different types of posts that you can potentially encounter in your fencing projects. As you go through and start looking at fencing, you'll find that there's some fence that is better suited for permanent fencing and some that's better suited for temporary fencing. And you may find that some of it can be used either way, as permanent or temporary fencing. A lot of what's going to determine that is more the type of post being used for it or the area that you're trying to fence off. So post spacing is important as it provides a framework for your fence perimeter. Spacing will differ based on the type of fence material that you're using and your land conditions and livestock pressure on the fence. Some livestock, such as horses, are horrible about pushing on your fences, while others won't challenge the fence generally. Also, you also want to go through and take a look at the manufacturer recommendations for the type of fence material that you plan on using, as they will give you a recommendation for the type of fence post to be used with their fence material and the spacing requirements to provide the best tension on your fence as possible. I've included a link for one of the fencing manufacturers here on this slide. And you can see the post spacing for some of the permanent fencing that's included here can vary anywhere from 8 foot up to 30 foot. So it just really depends upon the type of fence and how tight or how much tension you put on that fence as to the space requirements needed. It's also based upon the type of livestock that can be contained within that material. Another thing, when you're working with your fence posts, corners need to have some kind of bracing to help support the tension of the fence and keep the corner from being pulled in. The other thing is approximately every 100 foot should have an H-brace installed to help with supporting the weight of the fence and to help with being able to hold the tension of the fence. If you have a perimeter around your property or even in the areas where you're planning on cross fencing, if it's not in a straight line, you'll want to use H-braces or dead man supports. The H should be perpendicular to the fence to the inside of the curve to support the fence around the corner or curve. So if you're making a right-hand turn with your fence, the fence post, the H-brace / and or deadman should be to the right side of that fence. That way, as you put your tension on it, it's not pulling in. It's just like if you go out and look in the country where you have older telephone poles out there running, and you notice that they tend to get a lean going towards them, especially when it goes around, even if it's just a gentle curve. If they don't put some kind of cable or other means of support in for those telephone poles, you'll notice that a lot of them are leaning to the inside of that curve. And the same thing with your fence. Might not be as heavy of a wire that's used, but it's the same principle. So to help keep your fence looking nice and vertical and not sagging or laying in or just generally looking all kinds of ugly, you want to take these things into consideration. Here I have a few items that are pre-made. You got a corner brace. It's just a simple 90-degree angle as basically two H braces joined at the center there. That helps with your corners because you're going to have tension being pulled from potentially two different directions. If this was a corner where you actually had tension being pulled in all four directions, like you would say where this would be in a cross fence situation, then you would have additional two arms out there so that it can support all directions that tension is going to be pulled. You have an H brace here, just a simple design, and you can buy them pre-made, or you can go out and, if you're proficient with a welder, you can buy the steel post and make these yourself. And this is some of your temporary fence type, which is most of this is your electric wire or electric braid, electric tape, a little bit of variety there. A lot of these will have step-in posts versus you've taken the time to install T-posts, steel posts, wood posts. And again, with same thing with electric fencing, temporary fencing as with permanent. It's always recommended to go to the manufacturer to find out what their post spacing requirements are and what type of animals their fence is designed to hold. One of the things about fence posts, you'll find there's a lot of things that can be used as fence posts. You got T-posts, you got steel posts. If you got a lot of cedars on your place that are the size to use for wood posts, you can. Biggest thing I caution on wood post is pay attention to your area. If you're in a really wet area, using wood posts may not be your best option as they can potentially rot out in the ground. Even if you're in a drier area, over time, they will start to rot out in the ground, even if they're treated. Or you can run into the issue like we have here in South Texas, Central Texas area, where we get at best 25 inches of rain for the year. It's not so much that we wet rot as we dry rot because we get so hot that it will sit there and dry rot the fence posts out. So you might want to take that in consideration when you're going, oh, I've got all these cedar trees out here I can use for posts. That's a possibility. But how long is it going to be before you have to replace them? Here we did a nice ranch style 2-rail wood fence. The posts that were in the ground were treated 4x4s, and they have dry rotted out in a matter of about 15 years. So yes, I don't have to go and replace them every time I sneeze, but I am going to have to go back through and replace all of them. And anybody that's checked prices of treated 4x4s, that can get kind of pricey. And that's just on an acre. You expand that out to however big your property is. Yeah, you may have had cedar posts when you first started because you cut your cedar trees down, but are you going to have them for the replacement when you need to do it? And this, I just have a few pictures of fencing being used to contain sheep and goats, cattle and horses. You've got a variation of electric net, electric wire, step-in posts, permanent posts, cattle panels, chain link. Again, it's a matter of just getting with the manufacturer and find out what the recommended items are. For most livestock, I would not recommend using chain link because if they push on it at all, it starts stretching out and it causes issues. It's not meant and designed to hold livestock. It's meant and designed to keep people in and out and or small pets like dogs and cats, not livestock. So it's not a recommended item. You can try it if you got a lot of it, but you're probably going to be replacing it pretty quick. It's not designed for livestock.